Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to PS We Have No Plan. We are back in action after what we think might be a month. So,
It might just be, but we're back in our home bases. I'm in
yes,
Nashville, you're in LA.
yes,
Finally.
I know. I know. It's been such a weird couple of weeks or few weeks. And um, I feel like this episode, we're just gonna do a quick catch up, talk about what's been on our minds, what we've been up to, how we've been feeling, and yeah, just do a good old catch up.
I think that's great. Catch up for everybody, but honestly, just a catch up for you and I too.
I know.
I mean,
I
we text
know.
back and forth, but we both know like there's just so much going on. It's been like hectic and crazy few weeks. I know there's a lot of changes or whatever, just a lot of emotions and feelings and everything going on in life. And I mean, I'm looking forward to just girl chatting with you.
I agree. I agree. So what's been, maybe we can start with to get our feet warm. Is that the phrase?
Let's
Dip
warm
our
up our
toes
feet.
in. Yeah, warm up our feet.
Dip.
What's been like a rose thorn bud maybe of the last few weeks for you?
Oh wait, how about you go first?
Okay, okay. Let me think. So I think, and then we can go into our roses maybe or our thorns, whatever we want to talk about. But I think a rose for me has been progressing with the side thing in the movie industry and talking more with two amazing human beings and TV producers and writers. I've been meeting with them and creating decks for them for the past few months, but it's been picking up speed in the last few weeks. So
Oh,
that's definitely been a rose. It's like I seriously feel like my dreams are coming true. It's really unbelievable. And I call them my fairy godparents. Like they've just
oh
granted
my
this amazing wish
gosh.
for me. And then Thorn, this last week I was texting Em about this, but I have felt a little mentally bleh, and
Yeah.
it hasn't happened to me in a while. And so it was sort of unexpected because all these wonderful things have been going on. But yeah, maybe we can get into that. But on just a personal level, like really not feeling great and very emotional. I rewatched Normal People, which put me in even more of sort of like a sad girl energy.
Sometimes we just gotta sink into it, right? And
I
and
know.
somehow it helps.
I know. I'm
Isn't
like,
that
they
wild?
get it. I know. And then Bud, I'm very much looking forward to um I guess this episode and just getting back
Yeah,
to yeah, our thing.
I love that. Absolutely. I would say my so bud is like what's happening, right? Like what you're working on cultivating and letting it open back up.
I think so. I kind of just did what I'm looking forward to, like what's but yeah, so sure, whatever you want to
I really
make
love
it.
that. I really love that. Okay, so my rose. My rose is a little bit different from yours, but I have been waking up really, really early. Like every day,
Oh,
it's been so nice.
love
And
that.
I get outside. It's still cold out. The like sun's just starting to come up. There's a little bit of mist everywhere. And Freddie and I walk up to this part of town called 12 South, which is one of my favorite parts of town. It's really quaint, charming. There's shops and coffee up there and everything. And I've truly enjoyed having that now become
How
part of
cute.
art, right? And it just feels like it has been a game changer with starting my days. And so I've actually loved that. And I feel like that has actually blossomed into something already. So definitely the rose. But
Wait, can I ask a quick question on the rose? I feel like you've re-fallen in love with your home after getting back from
oh my
travel,
gosh, yes.
right? Okay, okay. That's what I've just
That's a
sensed.
very good one. Very,
Yeah.
very good one. Absolutely. Like I'm glad to be home. But you know what? Like I could have gone longer now. I'm like, I could have gone a couple more weeks. But I mean, I think that's the always the way it goes when you get back from somewhere. You're like, oh my God,
Totally.
that was fantastic. But yes, absolutely. Like just being home and recognizing how fortunate I am and to have somebody to come home to. I think
Hmm.
that was one of my first lessons, like even before I left, like the day I left, I was emotional and I realized I'm already learning. I'm so lucky that after I get to have this experience, I have people and animals to come home to that I love and love me back. I have this
Hmm.
house, I have a job that is giving me all this flexibility. And that's absolutely been that's been a bouquet of roses.
Yeah, I love
For
it.
sure. Yeah. And I thank you for bringing that up for sure. I think a bud is the weather change for me right now. It's like,
Mm,
yeah, we're
hmm.
starting to get sunshine daily, warming up just a little bit. And that for me, kind of like tying off of your thorn, it really helps my mental health. It
Yeah,
helps me feel better physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. And I don't think that I necessarily remember that every year because I also like the weary dreary, like
totally.
I know we can sink into that really well. And I'm like connected to it, I'm magnetically pulled to it.
Hmm.
But once the sunshine hits, it's like, oh,
I
I
agree
can
with
feel
you.
happiness again.
Yeah,
Right? It's
well,
like
it's
natural
welcomed.
happiness. It's welcomed. It's welcomed. And you know what? Those rainy days will come and they'll be great. Thunderstorms in the summertime. But I'm really looking forward to the summertime, I think, here and just having like a good change of consistent sunshine.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
what's your thorn?
So the thorn for me, and it might be something that we want to address later, or we can just talk about it now. Um, we had a mass shooting in Nashville yesterday, which is very tragic. It's at a private school that is in a church. 6 people were killed, 3 were kids. It's right across the street from my mom's house. And these things happen and we see them on the news all too often. But I think it's always in the back of your mind that it could happen close to you. But now it did. Like it happened in our neighborhood, truly. And it's at a church that we've delivered flowers to for weddings and friends have gone to in the past, and that it's so close to my mom. And it's just it feels so wrong. It feels so wrong that these things are still happening, and not to get into any rhetoric or anything like that, because I do think the beginning stages you should give space for grief and emotions and not jump into anything on who's thinking whatever on either side. But with that being said, I just can't see how everybody can't agree that things really have to change because
I
these,
know.
right? It's
It's one of the most infuriating topics to me. And obviously, we want to be sensitive to sensitive topics and, like you said, leave room for grief. But
right.
at the same time, it happens too often to the point where we're almost numb to it. And that's really, really problematic. The fact
It's
that, like,
scary.
it just feels like another Monday. It's like, okay, another shooting. Great.
Exactly.
It's just, and
Exactly.
that's all. It's just like, when is enough going to be enough? And when are we finally going to make a change that can actually help this problem? And I know it's very, very, like, there's so many layers to this, of course. And there's, so many layers. But I think, if personally, this is my personal view, I think there's a very clear thing that is doing the action, which is guns. And if
Absolutely.
we put more regulations around that thing, then I think
Absolutely.
a lot of this would stop. That's just common
And
sense in my opinion. But
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a clear issue, clear way to at least prevent a lot of it from ever happening
agreed.
again. And God
Agreed.
forbid it ever happens to anybody close that we know or anything like that. It's like truly my biggest fear. And yesterday, just kind of going on with the day and seeing like businesses are still open and still have to work when literally a mile down the road, this is all playing out. It is, it's very, very odd. And like you said, it's frightening how desensitized we are to it.
Totally. Totally. And I think and Em and I were talking before this episode, and we were like, how do we kind of approach this topic? Because it is
Right.
so hard. And I think um, the kind of overall feel of this is, how do you move on from these things that happen, whether they're personal to you, like a mental health kind of a depressive episode, let's just call it what it is, versus
Absolutely.
or like a mass shooting that really impacts the way that you can, feel safe in your home and your areas, and like you feel this terrible sadness. And it's like, how do you move forward? Like,
Yeah.
what's the first step, and what do you do? And Em and I want to share what we do because it's there's no right answer to it. But I think the important
No,
part is right, just talking about it and
I
being
think
like,
so
wow,
too.
let's address it.
Right.
Let's talk about this.
Right, because the worst thing that you can do is act like it doesn't exist or
Agreed.
there's not an issue. And not just with, this shooting. I think it's with
Agreed.
everything that you deal with in life that is troubling, difficult, or
Agreed.
whether it's large to a community or large to you internally,
Yeah.
it's things have to be addressed.
Yes. Agreed. And the challenge, like you mentioned, is how do you put on the face to smile and go back to work? And Luke and I, honestly, I can get into this a little bit. It's
Yeah.
still sensitive, but Luke and I talked about mental health last night, actually, watching Normal People. And like, at what point is it something where you need to take a break? And I think that's really hard for him and I know it's hard for you too. Like, what point is it where you're like, I can't get out of bed and I
Right.
can't smile today and I can't get dressed today, so I'm going to call in sick. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's
I
the
absolutely do.
threshold, right?
I mean, I wish I knew. And I think that I know that you and I struggle with that a lot because where is it that you're like, I just need to push through. I'm
Right.
okay. I can get through this.
Right.
And then where's that point where you're just like, no, 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 no. I'm taking on too much right
Right.
now. My emotions are overflowing. If I don't step away or just take some time, I will, I will not be okay.
Right. And that's honestly, I can share like that's what I've been experiencing the last
Yeah.
week. And you know me so well. Like that's I pride myself on being able to do a million things. And it's
Yes.
just in my nature to have a million things going on at once. And I usually get a lot of energy from that. And this last week, I came back from a wonderful vacation with my best friends in Mexico. And the week before that, I was in New York for work. And it was a great week. And we had a lot of great brainstorming sessions. We went to an improv show. I got on stage. It was so fun. We did like team bonding stuff. There was no reason for me to come home and feel overwhelmed, right? Like it was like no logical reason. I was just on a break. I was just traveling. I had a break from my home, but it wasn't too long. It was about 10 days. But I came home and felt like the only image I can come up with in my head is I felt like I was in this massive hole and everything was like going on around me like a tornado and I couldn't even see what was happening, but I was stuck in this dark hole. Like it just felt like everything was unattainable. I, daily tasks were unattainable and stressful. Calling my family felt like, oh my God, I can't even handle calling my family right now. And
Oh, I get
taking
that.
breaks, right? Like everything felt
Yes.
like this is a challenge. This is a challenge. Even my exciting things that I just mentioned with this producer, I was like, this was coming so natural. And now I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I don't know how to do it. And it's bad and it's awful. And we had to take a pause from our Instagram and our social. And that always is hard for me because I'm, committed. And yeah, it just I felt really,
Difficult.
yeah, like really paralyzed last week. And I don't know why.
I think, and I don't know, but I feel like this can be with me and probably with you as well. We're so used to going on autopilot sometimes, where when you have 10 things going at once, you just know how to roll through. You know how to get through it, and you know that you have to do this, this, this,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing it every day. But
Mm-hmm.
then when you take a step away, like maybe you have, like in New
Mm,
York and Mexico, you were able to sort of release the
mm-hmm.
pressures of doing all of those and then getting back into your environment. It is overwhelming. And I experienced that a little bit like coming back from my trip all of a sudden. And it can be the
Mm,
littlest things, taking the dog out, remembering to feed him,
right.
getting changed and going into the office. It's just, I think we feel, we feel a lot and we feel deeply, and anything can just kind of overwhelm you and overextend you a little too much. I mean, literally it can be one thing and then you just need a little break from everything.
Totally, totally. And that's definitely a place I got to. And maybe we can go into this further into like another episode, but I had a lot of different things happen to me growing up that were really, really hard. And I've mentioned this, I feel like in bits and pieces on the pod. And was super unwell mentally for a long time and was really negative, and I know I've mentioned that too. And the past year, I feel like I have learned more. I've gone to therapy consistently. I've spent a lot of time alone. I've, started this with you and done a lot for my mental health, like in a way I haven't done in a really, really long time, if ever. And I feel more positive. And it was interesting because last night Luke and I were talking, and it's like all my negative emotions and sadness and hardship and this like angsty, broken person that I was for so many years came back out, and I couldn't put her away.
Oh, no. And I mean, as much as we work on ourselves and try and rid those from
Yeah.
affecting us, they can pop up at any time. Like something can
Yeah.
trigger it, and it might not even be related to it, but it doesn't matter. Like those are still things that you felt and they were real and they happened to you. And you can learn how to deal with them in a healthy way, but that doesn't mean that you won't ever have to deal with it again. And just shows right there, it came back to you. And I think that that's really, really difficult. And it's also really difficult to kind of just talk about it right now in a free and open space and even admit to that. And so I mean, I applaud you on that because that stuff's really hard. And I know that
Hmm.
a lot of people are ashamed to like even say that something that happened to them 2 years ago is still affecting them. Like it
Right.
doesn't matter. And like anything, there's not a timeline with getting over something.
Mm-mm. No.
And you
And
might not
weird,
ever get over it. Maybe that's not the right word, but
right.
dealing with.
Right. And weird things will trigger it. And then weird things, you're like, why am I doing this to myself? Because this is
Yeah.
like, for example, normal people. Have you seen that show, by the way?
No, I haven't. Well, who's in it?
It's pretty intense. I don't know if it's your cup of tea, but it's actually the director is the same director of Room, if you ever saw that with Brie Larson. And the two main characters are Daisy Edgar Jones, who's British. She's a
Okay.
British actress, and then Paul Mescal, who is my new favorite actor right now. He was nominated for an Oscar for After Sun, which is an A24 film. Beautiful.
Okay.
And he won a BAFTA for Normal People. It was like one of his first big shows.
Was he in
Um,
White Lotus or no?
no,
Okay, the name
he
is
does
just
mainly indie. I'll send you. He's unbelievable, like
okay.
unbelievable. And I think I fell in love with this show, and that's so many people did because you can relate to the characters. It's like about a first love, but it's a really tumultuous love. And the main woman, Marianne, she's a little broken in ways that I relate to, and the main character Connell, it's an Irish show, so they're very Irish. So Connell, the main character, he had this like therapy session where he talked about a friend who committed suicide, and Luke reacted in the way that like Connell did and shuts down in the way Connell does. And so I think Luke and I both saw each other in these characters, and we were watching the show, and
Yeah.
a lot of past emotions came up, and we were like, wow, it's hard.
Oh, uh, and like, don't you feel like sometimes, for me, I have a little bit of guilt that I don't have a better way to express hard, like the word, or
Mhm.
hard, or tragic, or awful, or because it doesn't seem like enough. It doesn't seem like the right word to
Totally.
actually encompass what you're feeling at that time.
Totally. And yeah, and that's why I mean that's why I love movies and why I want to go into film and the film
Yeah.
industry, because I think it's such a powerful medium to make people remember those feelings and to really put a visual and a skit and a thing to these
Yeah.
feelings that you feel so deeply. So that's why I think I love it so much. But anyways, I want to talk about how you deal with these things. But I think for me, talking through it with him last night, even though it was awful and we cried and it was hard, and he's going through very real things, right? With being a first year resident and dealing with people's lives and having people die, and, needing to confront all the different things that he's going through. And he's running on very low sleep, which never helps your mental health. And,
No, no.
all these different things. But what we do is just like talk about it, even if there's
Yeah.
no solve, and just feel like this is where I'm coming from, this is where I'm coming from. And last night we came to a conclusion like, wow, neither of us are supporting the other in ways that we want. And from my side, I'm like, I know my life looks really happy right now and I'm really positive for most of the time. that's from a shit ton of work with a
Absolutely.
foundation of really sad shit,
Yeah.
And it's like little flowers are blooming now, finally. Thank God, because there's this foundation of really hard shit. And that was my point of like, sometimes, you know, I remember the
Oh,
soil, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? It's the little flowers that you just hoped for, and I think that helped
Yeah.
you keep going during all the
Yes.
shit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it's just I used to tell myself that all the time growing up or when I was in just really dark seasons that,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? One day there'll be a reason for this. One day it will be okay. One day you'll be able to tell your story and how you were able to accomplish like what you were dreaming of, and you pushed it all aside, not pushed it all aside, but you dealt with it. And I think when you are able to just remember what drives you and what's in your heart and what you hope for in the future, it's it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. But that you can't always be there. You know, you can't always just like you were, like it comes up. And I do the same thing. We talk about a lot of things, anything that's worrying us, or like yesterday, what's happening in our community, or even around the world, whether it's politics,
Mm-hmm.
helping the earth and conservatory, conservation issues, excuse me. Um, all of that is, I would say, a revolving list of topics. And I think it's really healthy to do that. I think it's also healthy to know that you can shut it off at sometimes because it
Mm-hmm.
becomes overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm learning that I watch the news all the time. I feel like it's one of my duties to stay informed what's going on in the world. And if somebody's dealing with it, I want to at least
Be
know,
informed. Right.
be informed, exactly. But sometimes it's okay to just kind of shut it off so you can shut yourself off because it impacts you and it impacts your mind. And you can just race, race, race all day long. And then all of a sudden you realize, I didn't live my life fully today. And I think that that could be one of the biggest lessons from this is just to remember to, how do I even say this? Just be grateful that you're still able to have a day coming up or a day presently, whether it's a good day or a bad day. I don't know. I think that I'm really in my feelings deeply right now because of yesterday, and just in the blink of an eye, things can change. And that doesn't negate though, and we've talked about this many times, that doesn't negate us with what we're going through either. I think if anything, it gives you perspective that anything can happen at any time, and things do happen at any time. Um, and we
I
have to
agree.
find ways to deal.
I agree. I think that's when you were texting me yesterday, I was thinking about this too. It's just the world is really sad and it's going to continue to be really sad. And people hurt people and it's awful and it's heavy and people die. That's a part of life. And that's just, to me, like, I don't know what helps me is staying present in my
Yes.
gratitudes. And I know this sounds really small to some people, but has been huge for me overcoming a lot of different things in my personal life is writing a list of 5 things that I'm grateful for every morning. I never
That's
miss it.
beautiful.
And just, it's really small things. Like today, it was like the color blue was one of my things I'm grateful for and why I'm wearing blue, and like the sun shining through leaves. Really, I'm so grateful for that. It's just like the most special. It looks like a fairy to me. Like little things like that, or big things like my husband. I'm so grateful for him and for being adults together and learning this shit. But having a list of gratitudes that you commit to every day, it's wild how helpful it is.
That totally goes into a conversation Jeff and I had just the other day about talking about seeing the magic in the world and choosing
Mm-hmm.
to see it kind of all
Mm-hmm.
around you.
Yes.
Um, I think that that can get lost with the sadness and the hurt
Yes.
that goes along in the world because it is a very sad world, and it is a very strange, dangerous world, but it's also a really magical world. And
Yes.
as we were talking about this, the wind was blowing on us. I was like, that to me,
Yep.
that's magic. Like, how is this happening to us? How are we all of a sudden getting this beautiful breeze around us? How is this happening like naturally? And when you sit and think about those little things, it really is something to be so grateful for. Like, it's beauty in the most simple form.
I completely agree. And it's like what you said, the and also, instead of like, I think my therapist always says this, it's this and also this. It's
Yes,
this and
yes,
also that. And
yes,
it's having a sense of both and not feeling completely enveloped by either one. And
absolutely.
honestly, I'll admit it here on this podcast. I admitted it to Luke last night. I think I've been living in the happy zone for a
Yeah,
long time because it's felt really good. It felt like this warm sweater on my body. Like I was so happy to live in the happy. And I think I didn't have the and also for some of the grounding stuff that I need. So I think it'll ebb and flow, right? Sometimes you live in the sad, sometimes you live in the happy. But I think striving for understanding both in your life is that's what it's all about.
absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I've said this so many times. I live in the fairy tale. My life
Yeah.
is in my brain. I choose to live in a fairy tale. I am completely aware of everything that's going around, and my heart hurts at times, and I want to
Yeah.
help. And truly, like one of my missions and one of the reasons why we do P.S. We have no plan is to just spark hope and to help and to do whatever we can to reach and touch people and help ourselves throughout this. And I feel like we've started to do that at least for
Hmm.
ourselves. And sometimes we, get really encouraging words from listeners, and it really does mean so much.
It
And
does.
it it just I'm grateful for that. I like having the perspective and mindset of beauty and whimsical, natural, powerful magic, but I'm aware. I know what's
Hmm.
going on around me, and I want to help alleviate the bad.
For sure. And my therapist came up with this really great vision for me when I was sort of judging myself for living in the shallow land is what I called it. Like I'm just having fun with makeup and I feel like pretty and this and that and I'm so happy and da da da. And she's like, "Yeah, but your life, think of it like a pool. You have a deep end and you have a shallow end and you're the whole pool. So it's really cool that you can go swim in the deep end and feel these deep things and understand depth and understand that there's darkness in the world, right? Like at the deep dark end of a pool. It's really okay to wade in the shallow end and just splash around in the shallow end because you're still a part of the depth is still there. You're just choosing to spend your energy in the shallow end and like have some fun and light and have the sun hit your body because you're standing up because you're in a shallow end. And she's like, there is nothing wrong with that. Like,
Absolutely. I love it when you share stuff from I do because it's beautiful imagery, and it helps because she's just using real life things
right.
for you to just see actually in your brain, and you connect it. It makes perfect sense, and it doesn't make you feel guilty for what you're going through, whether it's the good or the
Yeah,
bad. And sometimes I think we can feel really guilty if we're
totally.
experiencing something really good when somebody's experiencing something really bad. I think
Totally.
there could be a lot of guilt associated with that. Um, and learning that that's okay is really challenging.
It is. It is. And maybe a fun way to end this is to finish with the good because we both do have
Yeah.
positive things happening to us and I want to hear that as well because I think this podcast, if we could live our life in this podcast conversation, it would be amazing because we do such a great job of doing the deep and doing the
Yeah.
light and doing the whole balance of it all. But
Yeah. And
I
I
want to
love,
hear,
no,
wait,
go
go.
on. I was just gonna say I love trying to end on a positive note
Me too.
because I think then that helps you just go through your day with gratitude and just almost have a clarity of like, I've got this and we're
Yep.
still good. Let me focus on this. And I think mine, I'm very excited about, and I haven't said this, but I'm like, I am rebranding my Girl with No Plan. I am,
Oh,
I
that's
know.
so exciting.
I'm so excited. I've started to plan it out, talk about, or make a deck like you have been, and like you
Fun.
inspired me. You've really inspired me. I'm working on my photography skills and editing to find my own unique style so that people see that aesthetic and they know it's me. And I'm really excited. And my plan is to have like this presentation of my deck done and show my work and present it to that man that I told you about that I met 3 weeks ago
Yes.
and see like kind of get his feedback. How can you help me? How can I
Love.
help you? Like, let's see you. And you inspired me.
Oh, that means so much, first of all.
It's
And I'd
true.
love to workshop with you if you ever want to send over anything. And maybe I can do the same with you because it's so
I would love
scary to
that.
do that, right? Initially, you're like, is there a spelling error or does this image look right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
um, but that's exciting. That's really exciting. And I think that's a good way to approach talking to someone that you look up to of being like, how my brain works. Here's what's happening with me. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I, when we talked about this last, I was hesitant and I haven't reached out yet because I said, well, what do I want to say? What is
Right.
it that I want help with? What is it that what's my goal? And
Right.
so I sat with that for a little while. And I also came to terms that I shouldn't be embarrassed by my goal. It doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. Like if I want to do that, I have to try.
1,000%. Also, I was thinking about this, like, who cares? I don't know. Like it's the worst that they could say is like, oh, this
This is
young
dumb.
person doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, cool. Moving
Yeah.
on. I
Moving
feel
on.
it just is like might as well go for it because only amazing things can come from going for it.
Absolutely. And the most amazing things do. And even if it doesn't work out, try again. Try
Yes.
again, because you never also know what could spark in those tries. And that getting back up again teaches you that it doesn't happen in an instant. And so you have to keep working. You have to put everything into it. And that's hard when you do have things going on in other parts of your life. But if you just keep going, it will greet you when it's supposed
Agreed.
to. And I feel like that's a
Agreed.
lot what's happening to you right now.
It is. And I love that we're going through this kind of like
Yes.
our individual interests and brands and what we're trying to do with our lives as well as, sharing with each other. But yes, similarly, I've been sharing decks of ideas with these people and um there's something to them. They like them. And I'm meeting with them again on Thursday. And they're right now launching their new movie. Everyone go see it. One True Loves. It's written by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who wrote Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a very popular show on Amazon Prime. So her new movie is One True Loves. It's directed by Andy Fickman. And they're in New York City at their movie premiere. And they have amazing new projects coming up that I'm helping them with. And it's surreal. It's like I don't even know. At first I feel a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to talk about like what marketing they could do for these movies? Um, but then another part of me is like,
You
it's
do.
I do like everyone
Yes.
does. It's not rocket science. It doesn't require a degree. It just requires a creative mind and caring about film in the way that I do. And I'm trying.
And you're doing it. People with the level that they're working right now and the releases that they have, they wouldn't just give anybody a chance and want to work with everybody. Like what you can provide and you're bringing to the table is very special to them. And it's coming through and it's only the beginning.
I know it really is, and it's really wild. Like I text with them almost every day. I think um it's it's just pretty crazy. I mean, I'm very, very excited, and hopefully I'm putting it out there that I
Yes,
am
you
going
are.
to quit corporate and have my own business and brand where I help market movies and TV shows and do it in a really exciting, creative way. So that's what I want to do next. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm living in right now. Which is
So
exciting.
proud of you. Oh, I'm so proud. Like
Thank you.
I can't say I'm equally excited because obviously you're like just elated, but I'm very close.
I know you are. And that's
I just love that
another,
for you.
I feel like that's another good reminder for anyone listening is like share your dreams with a friend that's open-minded like you and I are. And it sounded crazy 3 months ago when I said this, when I was like, I want to work in film and TV. It's like, how are you going to do that? You have no connections. You have no network in the film industry. You're not a Nepo baby in the film industry. So
Right.
what are you going to do? And it's like, you just figure it out, put it out there with a friend.
Exactly. And you're doing it. You just kept doing it and trying, and the universe connected you.
Yes.
I really believe in that. I think that when you put that energy out there,
Agreed.
it finds you. You open yourself up to it. And that is essential.
Yep. Agreed.
Absolutely essential.
Well, we will keep you updated, everyone, with our personal ventures that we're going to pursue.
And we are back. I'm excited to be back, bringing our episodes back. I think that we love doing this, and hopefully that we continue this and build it as we build our individual projects. But I'm just so happy that you're back, and I'm back,
so happy. I know. And it's so exciting. It's the end of Women's History Month. So I feel like this is a nice wrap-up episode. And we had all these amazing grand plans of what we were going to do for Women's History Month, by the way, y'all. But maybe next year.
Yeah. Get ready.
Get ready, everyone. We have lots of grand plans. So you'll see us one way or another.
I woke up in the morning and the sun broke through the open curtains. The birds sang too and they said, "This is a day to